What if everything that is difficult about life for you, having ADHD, is because you're a hunter who's been forced to live in a world built for farmers? You know, I once listened to an anthropologist who said that the worst thing that humans ever did was start farming grains. Grains are horrible for our body. They cause tremendous amounts of inflammation, especially the way that they've been genetically modified and altered these days, the chemicals that are used to grow them. In fact, there's a theory that gluten intolerance really isn't the issue. It's actually chemical pesticide intolerance and glyphosate intolerance. There are actually studies that have been done that show that people with ADHD are more likely to suffer from the inflammation caused by eating grains. And that would make perfect sense if the theory goes that people with ADHD are actually genetically evolved to be hunters, hunter-gatherers. But then society came around, 5,000, 7,000 years ago, 10,000 years, whatever historians tell us that the dates are. But, history is written by the victors. That agricultural revolution was what led to empire. It's when we stopped living in small tribal communities of about 100 or 150 people, and then we were forced into farming communities and into the empire. Cities that started to get bigger and bigger, thousands, and then eventually millions. The ailments that we deal with, especially those of us that are diagnosed or self-diagnosed ADHD, neurodivergent, well, they all come from living in communities that we were never evolved to live in. We were never designed to live in. So today I want to help you connect with this idea that the way through, the way to unlock yourself, the way to really truly break free and live your most authentic life is to stop trying to live like a farmer and start living like the hunter that you came here to be. My name is Christopher Armstrong, and I created the Mutant Academy, a place for us neurodivergent visionaries, healers, leaders, teachers, builders, the ones that came here to break free from this agricultural mess that we have been given, that we've been forced into, so that we can start to build a new ancient future, a world that is more in alignment with our bodies, with our hearts, our mind, our soul, and with the way nature works. Now, this idea is really simple. I mean, at the core is just, there's kind of two evolutionary paths. There was an evolutionary divide. At some point in time, the theory says, we were hunter-gatherers, and then for whatever reason, we started to anchor down in one space. People often ask what I do and why I travel around so much, and the short answer was, well, I'm a nomad. I'm a digital nomad. There's a lot of digital nomads here in Dahab in Egypt, where I live. But digital nomad, there's a little bit something confusing about that. First of all, of course, because the original nomads had no digital devices. But because the digital nomad in this day and age might go for 1 month to Bali, and then they might end up in South America, and then they might be for 6 weeks in Spain, and then they go maybe to Moscow for a couple of months. And there's no rhyme or reason to why they're going where they're going. They're just wandering and exploring. But the original nomads, they would go wherever the resources would be supportive of them. So seasonally, they would move from one area to the next. When it got colder, they would go a little bit more where it's a little bit warmer. They'd go from up high in the mountains down to the lower valleys or to the coastline, maybe where it was a little bit hotter, a little bit warmer. Where there was more food, there was more animals to be able to hunt. And these nomads would move with the seasons, they'd move with the rhythms of nature, with the availability of resources. And every time they would more or less go back in the same rhythm, in the same pattern. And so the nomad that just wanders around the earth with no aim, no direction, and just kind of goes bouncing from one place to the next, doesn't really mimic the ancient ways, which is, here's my winter home, here's my spring home, here's my summer home, here's my autumn home. And every time the nomad would come back, they would harvest and eat of the abundance, and then they would plant seeds so that the next cycle around, when they come back, things were better. So if we were hunters and nomads, and then we've been forced into this world where agriculture and the need to harvest every year the same products over and over again, and then to pay some of those products as tributary and tax to the ruling class, the ones that would tell us the rules to follow and the religions and the gods to pray to, or the god to pray to, well, then we would end up staying still and staying stuck, and then we would start disengaging from our natural rhythm, which would be to follow the resources, to follow the seasonality. And then we had to start following the rhythm of the farming, very slow and still in the wintertime, and then very active in the summertime, always kind of working hard all year round, but in a different rhythm where the plants and the crops dictated our rhythm rather than us really listening to the whole interwoven, interconnected rhythm of the land. Then fast forward several thousands of years, and now we're here, and the ailments of the modern agricultural industrial society is gotten worse because now we're sitting in chairs, and it messes up our back and our posture and our digestive system. Now, I bet you 80% of the population, if not more, can't even get into a squat position. It's become so painful, but that used to be our resting position when we were primal, tribal hunter-gatherers. The food that we eat is slowly killing us, contributing to diabetes and heart disease. Our bodies are not cleaning themselves, which is really the source and the issue of cancer, the lymphatic system. Most doctors don't ever talk about the lymphatic system. And it's a system that, unlike our blood, does not have a pump to move it, so our movement itself is the pump that gets this energy and this, essentially the sewer system for our body flowing. And so all of these stack up, and then you have those of us who are very neurodivergent, those of us who actually still maintain the nervous system of the hunters, the hunter-gatherers, and we suffer the most from the ailments of modern Western industrialized and agricultural civilizations. And I imagine it's probably just going to get worse as things go to the more information architecture revolution, because loneliness, being online and being hyper-connected but being completely disconnected from people. We have the ability to connect with more humans at one point in time, but we lack the nervous system co-regulation. We can't feel, touch, smell these people, and so we feel isolated, alone. Again, hyper-processed foods are starting to really do its damage upon us. Those of us with neurodivergent nervous systems really suffering the most. We're not doing what we used to do, which was going outside, spending a majority of our time outside, moving our bodies, using our kind of hypervigilant or our scanning nervous system to scan the forest or the jungle or the ocean to farm, not to farm, to fish, to hunt, to gather. We were the ones that would go beyond the edges of the tribe into the unknown. We would take risks and go out in the pursuit of greater caches of food resources or healing plants. And gosh, I even have this image that comes to my mind of like the local shaman healer in the tribe needs to get their hands on a healing plant for somebody's ailment, and this is where the ADHD mind, the hunter mind, would need to go out on this mission to find that plant and bring it back. God, this is actually even the idea of video games that we played or do play, and no wonder that we seek out those things, because they give us some echoes of the nervous system engagement that we used to get when we actually would go out and do those things. Now, I've broken free from the 9-to-5 system. I worked for years in restaurants, and now I have my own business. And in many ways, that's been a huge improvement. In many ways, it's been terrible, because then I'm on my computer all day. I'm trying to to build a business, have been trying to build a business on a system that is meant for this agricultural issue, this agricultural design, this industrial information revolution design. But I'm meant to be out there, hunting, gathering, exploring, experiencing, tasting, touching, fully immersed in the environments. And when I sit in front of my computer for 8 to 10 hours trying to design funnels, almost in a way being a trapper, designing a system to entice somebody to come and join my systems or my architecture, there are aspects of it that can be very engaging, but most of it just drives me nuts. And I find myself coping, drinking, eating, just negative self-talking myself almost to death, because I was meant to be out there hunting and gathering. Maybe you were too. So what are we going to do about it? Well, number one, you got to recognize it. You got to acknowledge that this is a potential. I mean, think about it. If I had a child who was diagnosed with ADHD, now with what I know, I would put them into a forest school. I would get them into a community system that engages them and teaches them, but also honors the fact that they need to be outside, they need to be touching and sensing and feeling and exploring and playing and falling down and getting back up. A place where they can feel safe, and also they can explore and test their limits and see what's sharp and what's not. And that's what we need to do as adults as well. Tomorrow I have a full day, a Thursday, scheduled for scuba diving. And I'm so excited that I'm going to spend the whole day scuba diving. I made the choice to spend the whole day scuba diving. This was inspired especially after a mushroom ceremony that I went and that found me for my birthday a few days ago. Also, this idea of the stoned ape is really interesting because these hunter-gatherer nomadic wanderers would eat the psilocybin mushrooms that they found in the feces of roaming plains animals or whatever it might be, and then that expanded their mind and supported them because the mushroom actually supports the hunter in being able to hunt more effectively. Better sensory perception, more in tune, more able to balance the input of sensory data, potentially even opening out and creating a wider opening periphery in which we can get that data. And in those mushrooms, I saw very quickly that I need to engage myself. I must schedule play. I must schedule adventure in my life so that I can schedule focus and productivity and all these things. And I will tell you the anxiety that I have felt when I see that on my Thursday and my calendar blocked out for scuba day, and I go, oh my God, what am I doing? I have work to do, I have things to do, I have a business to build. And then I immediately think, well, no, that's what I need to do. I need to go out there. This is like mimicking aspects of the hunter energy that I need to really connect with, that I'm not connecting with more these days. And that's to be out there looking and observing and seeing and engaging with technical equipment and practicing with tools and learning and working with a mentor and a teacher, and I'm being challenged, I'm being pushed to my limits, but then realizing that as I push myself to my limits grow and expand, and then I become bigger and better and stronger and more powerful. We have to live differently. That's even why today I came up to the rooftop, and instead of, deciding, usually I would sit down and I would meditate, and then after that I might do some exercise, like watch a YouTube video and exercise. Now what I've been doing is I've just been putting on an ecstatic dance DJ set or a live tribal organic DJ session, from a festival, and then I just get up and I breathe and I move my body, and it's like moving my spine and my hips and my pelvis, getting down into the low squat position, moving in what feels like very sexual positions, the hips thrusting and my body moving. Well, that's because those are the primal, powerful movements and the activation and awakening of energy that has been dormant, especially dormant because of this agricultural society that we've been forced into. No wonder you look at movies like Footloose or whatever, where they're, these farming communities that banned dancing because it was so primal and so powerful. But all of our ancestors used to get together on these specifically astrologically, astronomically, seasonally oriented festivals and celebrations, and sometimes we just got together and we party and we drank and we got wild, we copulated, we celebrated what it was to be a primal, powerful human. And then we didn't have to worry so much about this, like, oh, well, somebody knocked someone else up, because we lived in a tribe. And some cultures, actually, in those days, they practiced where multiple male partners would have sex with a female to then ultimately there was no clear answer who was the father, but everybody was the father. Everybody was an aunt and an uncle, because the tribe took care of this child and this family. We all worked together, and there was no, you've got to go get a babysitter because you've got to be responsible for this child, and you need to go to work, and so you need to find daycare for your child where you're going to be disconnected from your child, and they're going to be in a room with a person that you may or may not know and may or may not like, with other kids that may or may not have the same values as you, but it doesn't matter because you've got to survive in this cold, hard, industrial, agricultural, and now informational industrialization world. Look, I could go on forever, but the idea is that you need to live differently. We get to live differently. We can no longer try to fit into this farming world that has been built for us. We must re-engage and reactivate. That's why so many of us are drawn to somatic healing therapeutic techniques in the pursuit of a non-medicated resolution and solution to our ADHD disorder, which is not a disorder, it's a superpower. Because those holistic methods are involving the moving of the body, the recognition that it's hard to have a positive thought and strong emotions if my body is toxic and tight and hunched over. And so we're often drawn to the ecstatic dance and the primal movement and the nervous system co-regulation of community peace and presence and physical touch. And sometimes it goes poorly because we're never taught how to manage our sexual energy, or we were taught by parents who were just really children how to seek validation and external approval. And then so we seek that as well. Look, this goes on and on. It's infinitely complex. But you're here to be different, because we're here to awaken a new ancient future, a future that synthesizes ancient power, wisdom, rhythm, seasonality, tradition, ritualistic engagement of the human psychosensory mechanisms, and awakens a more powerful human that actually, I believe, always existed. I believe that this is not the pinnacle of human evolution. I think this is a valley of human evolution. This is probably the dumbest that we've been for a long time, because we've been evolving in a way that's been forced instead of naturally and rhythmically aligned. So it's time for us to do that. And if any of this resonates, if for some reason in this stream of consciousness, flow, speech style of video that I've recorded just now, you're still with me, it's because this resonates with you and you need something different. And if you're alone, then realize that you don't have to be, because that's why I created the Mutant Academy. This is a place where we come together, the hunters, the gatherers, the nomads, the ones that don't fit into the agricultural, industrial boxes, and we come together and we support each other. We train our minds and our bodies. We awaken the power within. We activate the energy that is locked away in our hips and in our DNA, so that we can be the evolution that humanity needs at this time. So don't try to do this alone. And look, if this community doesn't click with you, that's fine. I don't take any personal offense. There will be one out there for you. And find community or create it. A lot of the people that come into my academy, they want to create their own communities. And that's fine, because if we were designed, or we evolved, or however it was, to be in tribes of like 150 or something, then there's going to be a lot of tribes and communities out there. And maybe we all interweave in a network of globally connected communities of new earth, new grid, new systemized communities. But we've got to have the leaders and the people that are willing to go out there and do it. And that's probably you and me and those like us. So I'll leave it at that. If this resonates with you at all, subscribe to the channel, like, send it to somebody who you know is a hunter stuck in a world of farmers. And start to pull that thread and learn how can you live more like our ancestors and less like this synthetic BS world that we've been forced into. Once again, my name is Christopher Armstrong, headmaster of the Mutant Academy, and until next time.